The most ambitious people are often the ones who fail the most. Not because they're lazy, not because they're weak, but because they're lost in a maze built by their own mind. Let me ask you something. Have you ever wanted so much, and yet felt like you're moving in circles? Like you're running full speed toward a future that never seems to arrive? Haunted by the weight of your own expectations? You chase greatness, but at night, you wonder if you're actually just broken. If that sounds like you, stay with me, because this isn't another motivational speech. This is an autopsy. There's a specific kind of suffering that only ambitious people truly understand. It doesn't look like suffering on the outside. To others, you seem driven, capable, maybe even ahead of the curve. You're the one with the ideas, the vision, the intensity. But inside, you're quietly imploding. Ambition, for many, isn't just about goals. It's a survival mechanism. It's a way to prove you're not a waste of potential. To silence the voice inside that keeps whispering, "You should be more by now." There's a chronic dissatisfaction that follows you. You could be doing something impressive, building a career, a business, chasing a dream, but no matter how far you get, it never feels like enough. The horizon always moves a little further away. You look around and compare. You measure your timeline against people who had different battles, different advantages, different paths. And somehow, you always come up short. Even when you're ahead, you're not really happy. Because comparison has no finish line, just endless reminders that someone else seems to be doing it faster, better, cleaner. You become addicted to your own potential. You fantasize more than you act. You get high off the idea of who you could be, how powerful, how successful, how respected. But when it comes time to translate that fantasy into real work, something stalls. Because reality is heavy. Reality has resistance. And deep down, you don't want to see what happens if you give it your all and still fall short. So you stay in limbo. You stay almost great, almost clear, almost fulfilled. You live in the painful space between intention and execution. And every day you don't move feels like proof that something is wrong with you. You carry the weight of wasted time. Regret creeps in like a slow poison. You look back at your younger self and feel the ache of all the chances you didn't take. All the plans you started and never finished. All the time you thought you had, but used to overthink instead. And the world doesn't see this pain. Because it's a quiet kind of suffering. You still smile. You still post. You still perform. But behind the ambition is a deep fatigue. A constant questioning of whether you're really meant for more, or if you're just delusional. The truth is, most ambitious people aren't lazy. They're tired. Tired of not being who they could be. Tired of trying to force themselves to fit into a version of success that doesn't even feel real. But that inner war? That push-pull between desire and doubt? That's what keeps so many from ever finding peace. Because when you tie your worth to what you haven't yet done, you become a ghost in your own life. Self-sabotage isn't just a quirky trait of the weak-willed. It's the silent killer of the ambitious. You may have the skills, the ideas, the drive, but something always trips you up, and you can't quite put your finger on it. You tell yourself, "I'll start tomorrow," or "It's not the right time." But deep down, you know it's more than procrastination. It's a deeper fear that haunts you. There's a paradox at play here. On the one hand, you fear failure. You're terrified of the judgment, the rejection, the crushing weight of defeat. But on the other hand, there's a quieter, more insidious fear. The fear of success. What happens if you actually get what you want? What happens if all the hard work, the sleepless nights, the sacrifices finally pay off, and you're still not happy? That's the fear that drives you to stall. It's the fear that your success will expose you, your insecurities, your vulnerabilities, your flaws. You don't just sabotage yourself because you fear failure. You sabotage yourself because you fear being seen. You attach your self-worth to the outcome. If you succeed, you win. If you fail, you lose. And that's dangerous because it forces you to play a game with impossible stakes. So you paralyze yourself. You lean into perfectionism. You tell yourself, it's not ready yet. I just need to perfect it. But the truth is, you're not afraid of imperfection. You're afraid of what comes after imperfection, exposure. This creates a cycle. You delay. You overthink. You second guess. And in doing so, you never even give yourself a chance to fail. But the truth? Failing is the only way to grow. And by avoiding failure, you lock yourself in a cage made of potential. You're addicted to the high of dreaming. The idea of success is much easier to swallow than the reality of it. Dreaming gives you dopamine. It feels productive. But the actual work, the grit, the struggle, the discomfort of failure, feels like an emotional death. This is why highly driven people often find themselves stuck in the realm of ideas but never in the realm of action. You create endless plans and mental blueprints, but they're just distractions from the real work, the execution. You overcomplicate things. You make them more difficult than they need to be. Because deep down, if you make it complicated, you can delay facing the truth. That you might not be as prepared, as ready, as good as you think you are. The battle is psychological. It's not about ability, it's about belief. It's about self-efficacy, the belief in your ability to succeed. When you don't believe in your own ability to achieve, you avoid the work altogether. This is where imposter syndrome creeps in, telling you that you're a fraud, unworthy of success, always one step away from being found out. And this is where executive dysfunction surfaces, the inability to organize your thoughts and energy into productive action. So you stand still. You make plans. You talk about what you will do, but you don't actually do it. This self-sabotage isn't a flaw of willpower. It's a prison of the mind. The key? You have to confront the fear that keeps you chained to inaction. Only then can you finally break free. Potential is a dangerous thing. It's a double-edged sword, beautiful yet paralyzing. And for ambitious people, it's the most subtle trap of all. You've heard it before, haven't you? You have so much potential. The world is waiting for you to show up. It's the compliment you never quite believe, but it sticks with you, and over time, it grows into a weight. There's an invisible pressure that comes with potential. It's like being handed a map to greatness, but no compass to guide you. You hold on to the idea of who you could become, this perfect version of yourself that's always just beyond reach. But the problem is that potential, when it's never realized, becomes a kind of prison. The curse of potential is that it never materializes. You live in this space between who you are and who you could be, forever. You chase goals but never finish them. You start projects, but they never come to fruition. You gather knowledge but never apply it. You collect experiences without ever fully embracing them. Because as long as you stay in the world of potential, you never have to confront reality. You can dream endlessly, reshape your path as often as you like, and always keep the possibility alive. But what are you actually achieving? Nothing. The person who never decides is always almost. But almost is a dangerous place to be. It's the land of infinite possibility, where everything feels like it's about to happen, but nothing ever does. The thing is, ambition without identity is an invitation to fragmentation. When you're obsessed with what you could be, you never settle on who you actually are. You keep waiting for the right time, the right opportunity, the right mindset. But what if the right time was right now? What if the perfect version of you isn't a future version, but the one standing here today, still imperfect, still messy? Every time you push your future self into the horizon, you fragment yourself. You lose pieces of your soul trying to chase a version of success that doesn't even exist. When you constantly live in a state of, I could be more, you trap yourself in a cycle of dissatisfaction. Potential becomes a never-ending race where the finish line keeps receding as you run toward it. You can't rest. You can't breathe. And in the end, you realize This was never really about becoming something at all. It was about avoiding the vulnerability of being something. And that's where burnout takes root. Not because you didn't have the talent or drive, but because you spent your entire life chasing an identity that was never meant for you. You traded self-acceptance for the illusion of self-actualization. The only way to break free from the trap of infinite potential is to make a choice. To commit. To finally pick a path and walk it, even if it's imperfect. Because real success doesn't come from endless potential. It comes from decisions made, actions taken, and identities embraced. Let's step back and explore this from a deeper, more philosophical perspective. The truth is, the questions around ambition are not just psychological. They're existential. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This is the crux of the issue. The ambitious person is often driven by something unconscious, a deep desire to prove their worth, to achieve something grand. But what if that desire isn't even yours to begin with? What if you're chasing an ideal that was handed to you long ago, by your family, society, or the expectations of others? This question is not easy to answer, but it's necessary to ask, are you truly chasing what you want, or what you've been conditioned to want? Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust, said that meaning is the most essential thing we need as humans. He argued that people could endure nearly anything if they found a deeper meaning behind it. But meaning, he argued, isn't found in achievements or success. It's found in the way we navigate life's suffering, in the choices we make, the way we relate to others, and the responsibility we take for our own lives. What if your ambition is simply a distraction from something deeper? What if you're chasing success because it gives you a sense of control, a way to avoid confronting feelings of unworthiness or fear? Alan Watts, the philosopher known for bringing Eastern thought to the West, warned against the endless chase of goals. He said that we often treat life as if it were a race towards some future goal. But what if the chase itself is the illusion? The problem with chasing is that it keeps us stuck in a loop. We constantly tell ourselves, once I achieve this, then I'll be happy. But happiness doesn't exist in the once. It exists in the now, in the moment we stop running and simply exist. Nietzsche, the philosopher who radically reshaped the idea of ambition, talked about the will to power. But his version of power wasn't about domination or control. It was about self-overcoming. It was about the ability to confront and transcend your limitations. Ambition can be a form of will to power, but not in the sense of striving for external success. It's the power to be true to yourself. It's the ability to reshape your identity, not based on the demands of the world, but based on your own inner truth. Ask yourself, what if your ambition isn't about finding success at all? What if it's about finally letting go of the illusion of success? What if the real ambition is to learn to be content with the journey, to embrace the imperfection of being human, to stop running toward the future and instead build meaning in the present? The existential question, then, becomes, are you chasing your goals, or are your goals simply a mask for your own avoidance of deeper truths? You may not have an answer yet, but the very act of asking will free you. It will open the door to a kind of freedom you didn't even know you were missing. And it will allow you to move forward, not with the urgency of a race, but with the calmness of someone who has finally found peace in the present. So, what now? You've seen the psychological traps, the existential questions, and the emotional pain that often come with ambition. You've faced the truth that chasing endless potential leads only to fragmentation. Now it's time to rebuild. But here's the thing, rebuilding doesn't mean starting from scratch. It means starting from ground zero, the place where you finally accept where you are. The first step is letting go. Let go of the toxic ambition that has bound you in a cycle of never-ending striving. Let go of the idea that success must look a certain way, or that you must meet others' expectations to be worthy. You are not defined by how much you achieve or how impressive your resume looks. You are defined by your ability to live authentically, to align your actions with your values, and to find peace in the process. Redefine what success means to you. Success isn't just a trophy or a bank balance. Success is being present with yourself, accepting where you are right now, and making decisions that are grounded in clarity, not desperation. Success is living with intention, not chasing endless milestones. Success is creating a life that feels right, not one that simply looks good on paper. Building systems is the key to overcoming burnout. Systems are sustainable. Goals can be fleeting and disappointing, but a system is something you can rely on day in and day out without the need for constant motivation. It's about focusing on small, consistent actions that add up over time. Stop chasing dopamine spikes that come from the highs of achieving something grand. Build a system where each day has meaning, not because you're getting closer to some elusive goal, but because you're showing up, giving what you can, and learning from each moment. The process becomes the reward, not the end result. It's also crucial to make peace with being a beginner again. Many ambitious people struggle with the idea of starting over. They feel like they've already invested so much time, so much effort, and starting from scratch feels like a waste. But the truth is, the moment you release the pressure to be an expert, to be perfect, you open the door to real growth. Embrace the fact that you will stumble. Embrace the discomfort of being new again. And realize that growth isn't linear. It's messy. It's imperfect. And that's where the beauty lies. Cultivate clarity in your life, not just a desire to achieve. Clarity comes from knowing what you want, not what you think you should want. Clarity comes from knowing what aligns with your inner truth and letting go of the constant noise of external expectations. Take a step back. Ask yourself, what do I truly want? What is my deepest purpose? Then, align your actions with those answers. Not with fleeting desires or hype, but with a deep, grounded sense of knowing. You can rebuild, but it won't happen by chasing the next big thing or trying to become someone else. It will happen by embracing who you are right now and building systems that reflect your values, not the demands of a broken ambition. And as you rebuild, know this: you don't have to be perfect. You just have to show up. And that's enough. Maybe you fail, because deep down, you're terrified of what happens if you finally succeed. Maybe you've been clinging to the chaos because it's familiar, but you don't have to do that anymore. You're allowed to let go. You're allowed to begin. Not with fire, not with fury, but with a calm, steady hand and a clear, honest heart. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're just beginning again. And that's not failure. That's freedom.